This is your boy Brandon Correia, aka EF Hunt of Entertainment, and we are back with another review. And the review we got today is Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, Episode 5. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up. If you think you would be interested in content like this, all the Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power coverage, House of the Dragon coverage, Andor coverage, She-Hulk coverage, if you're interested in that content, trailer reactions, all the good entertainment news updates, subscribe to the Brandon Correia Network. Make sure you hit the bell. I drop videos almost daily, so hit that to stay up to date. Now let's get into this Rings of Power Episode 5 review. Now this episode might be the best of the episodes so far. Again, I was never hating on this show. I was enjoying the show for what it was from the very beginning. The show was very beautifully shot. You could see the money on the screen. You could just see the money that they poured into just every single aspect of all these shots. So I just want to get that out of the way first, that this show honestly looks amazing. But this episode, like I was saying, is probably one of the best because for the first time, it really seems like all the different and the moving parts are finally coming together. We have the Harfoots and Meteor Man continuing their journey. And as they're progressing, they're obviously going through mountains and across big fields. And they end up getting to a point where the Harfoots get ran up on by some wolves. And this is a spoiler review. So the Harfoots get ran up on by some wolves and Meteor Man ends up doing some magic and kind of, you know what I mean, gets the wolves to go away. So the Harfoot village is basically starting to kind of come around. We don't really see it, but they're starting to come around to Meteor Man, right? And then there's a point where because he's like, I guess he's getting used to like his physical body because the move that he did to get the wolves away, he ended up hurting his arm. So he was like icing it at a point, and Nori came over and tried to like touch his arm, and it ended up freezing her arm, and like it broke, and she freaked out and she kind of like ran off. So while that's kind of going on, obviously we're jumping from there to the Southland stuff with Bronwyn and Theo and Arondir, where we obviously see them kind of regroup at the tower, and Bronwyn is trying to rally the Southlanders, the people that she was like in that village with, to kind of stay and fight and just stand their ground for when the orcs come. And Arondir is there with them, the elf, and he is kind of like trying to like help her convince these people to stay and fight. But the one older individual, the one that was telling Theo about the sword and about the mark, the one that was telling Theo about Sauron, that, you know what I mean, it seems to be one of the individuals that Sauron kind of influenced. He was basically, as like she was trying to rally everyone, he was like, no, like forget them, like basically let's just go give ourselves in and like we'll be all good. So half of the townspeople end up going with him and going to meet the orcs and the Southlanders. And I think the elf's name, like the dark elf's name that's kind of like pale, is his name's Oren. Let me know in the comments if I'm completely wrong with these names. Like I'm definitely trying to learn all these characters, but I think it's Oren with the orcs, where the townspeople and this older individual, they end up going. So this is bouncing back with the Harfoot storyline, but then also the Numenor storyline, which obviously the main focus is on Numenor and the Numenorians gathering together to go to Middle Earth. Because obviously we saw in last episode, the Queen gave the call that she was going to support Galadriel in that voyage to Middle Earth to stop the orcs, right? But we see in this episode, her father is a little resistant on them going. There's a part where he kind of gives a warning to her about how like you're just going to go to Middle Earth and it's going to be darkness. We see Pharazôn's son question Pharazôn a lot, but we also see kind of Pharazôn in a way kind of playing a Game of Thrones game in a sense where, so he's married to the queen, but the queen's his cousin. So not only is there some political kind of games going on for the throne, but he married his cousin. I'm pretty sure that's the relationship from what I took from it. So a lot of Game of Thrones stuff going on there. We see Pharazôn's son try to sabotage the ships that were obviously set and packed up in order for them to voyage to Middle Earth. We end up seeing him go on the boat, try and like, cause I guess there was oil barrels on the boat, and he tried to like let a lot of the oil go and then light a flame to the oil. But as he's about to do it, we see that Isildur is on the boat because he's trying to get into the army that's going to Middle Earth. Because obviously we know that, and again, tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that Isildur is the one that cut the ring off of the finger in the beginning of the first Lord of the Rings movie, in like that flashback. I'm pretty sure Isildur is supposed to be that person, right? So he is trying to get into like the army, but his dad won't let him because he messed up his chance on the Sea Guard and he gave him a lot of chances to kind of prove himself, and he kept dropping the ball. Because when he came up to him and he's like, I want to serve, his dad was like, well, what's your resume? Like, what have you done? Like, you're not part of the Sea Guard. You have no blacksmithing thing. He's like, why should I give you this job? Right? And like, part of it was like, I feel like he wanted to go with his friends, but he also wanted to fight. So we see that Isildur is on the boat with Farazón's son, like sleeping because he's trying to sneak on. And as he sees this, he basically tries to stop him. They get into a little tussle. The flame ends up going up anyway. Fire starts, and Farazón's son is about to, like, he passes out on the deck of the boat, and Isildur basically has to like pick him up to like save him. Ends up saving him. The boat blows up. Everyone comes to the dock. The dad's like, Isildur, you okay? And then he's like the Farazón's son is basically like, he saved my life. I wouldn't have been alive without him. So obviously from their point of view, they don't know that both of them snuck onto the boat. They just think that Isildur saved Farazón's life and Farazón's son's life. And obviously Farazón is like a high ranking person in Númenor. Right? So the fact that he saved his son, like, it would allow Isildur to kind of maybe get a little pull in certain areas. And we see at the end of the episode that Isildur does get onto the boat with the army with his two boys, but we see that he ends up getting like mopping duty or cleaning duty or something like that. Like, he's actually not like serving right now anyway. He's kind of like in the background, but he was happy nonetheless to be on the boat. And we see a moment of him and his friends make up, and he's like, I'll give you a punch in the jaw in the gut, which was like a nice moment between friends. You know how guys fight and they beef, that, you know what I mean, they get a little steam off, a little punch off here and there, and then they're good, right? So we see that moment, they reconvene. And when I said that, that's how it ends, with Isildur on the boat and the rest of the ships that the Númenóreans had sailing off to Middle Earth. So we basically kind of see it kind of coming together. And this is why, to me, it was one of the best episodes, because we finally see a lot of the moving parts that they were setting up in the show. And it did take a while, but we're finally starting to see all of these moving parts come together. So I'm guessing that we're going to get a big battle soon, maybe not next episode, but maybe episodes 7 and 8. I really do think that's coming very soon. And there was actually another moment that Farazón's son, this is kind of like outside of all the big plots kind of tying together, but there was a moment where, well, it kind of does in a way, because we kind of see like there's going to be like mutiny and treason and kind of like overthrowing of the queen, right? Because Farazón, there's a conversation where Farazón's son kind of questions Farazón in front of a lot of people, and Farazón kind of dismisses all the people in the room. And then he has to like look at his son, and he has to like regulate his son and let him know his plans. And he's like, you have to go with the wave of the ocean. He's basically just breaking it down to him that you have to pounce when the time's right. You can't just do what you feel. Like, you have to think long term and just take your time, right? So it was a nice moment between father and son, but also just us as the audience getting more into his mindset and us being allowed to see where his true motives lie, right? Because from what I've heard, he is a big part of the fall of Númenor and the reason why they fall. So I'm very interested to see how his character plays out and where his character is going to end up and how it'll develop. So the last thing I probably want to get into was Elrond talking to King Gil-galad. Please let me know in the comments if I'm murdering the name, but they're basically having a conversation like, did you find the mithril? So they're having dinner at the dinner table, and you could just feel the tenseness in this conversation. And you could just feel the tenseness in between like the king and the dwarves, and just that they're not the best of friends, right? And you were getting that sense throughout the entire series. So we find out later that the king sent Elrond to go to the mountain and meet the dwarves to see if they had discovered the mithril. And I forgot to mention in my last episode review that Durin and Elrond actually had a nice moment again at the end of the episode, where he was at the dwarf mountain. There was like a cave collapse, and there were certain members that were trapped, but they ended up saving them. And Durin was trying to keep it a secret, but he ended up kind of spilling the beans and showing that they found this ore. It's super rare. It's light. All amazing properties that you can know. It's amazing for foraging, all that. Gives him a piece of the mithril. So now fast forward to episode 5, where the king is like, did you find it? Right? Basically showing that he knew, and him and Celebrimbor knew what they were trying to do. And he was trying to get Elrond to basically go over there, repair the relationship, and see if they can either find the mithril and get some, or if they can maybe like negotiate for it, or like whatever, right? Because we basically find out, and Elrond finds out, because Elrond is kept in the dark this whole time, because I think it might have been like episode 2 where the leaf from the tree started originally falling, or it could be episode 3, I can't remember, but the leaf started falling from the tree, and you saw the black veins on the leaf, obviously foreshadowing that was going to happen to the rest of the tree. So we find out that if this happens and they don't get the mithril, because Celebrimbor said that he tested it and that it would, I guess, regenerate the tree, or I don't know if it will provide the elves the life force that they need to kind of be immortal. I missed that part. So again, let me know in the comments exactly how they're using the mithril on the tree and how that connects to their immortality and like their life force. I need a little bit more clarification in that part. But they're basically like, we need the mithril to survive. And we see Elrond getting really, really uncomfortable because again, he's put in an uncomfortable position. He told Durin that he's like, I'm not gonna tell their secrets. I made an oath. I gave an oath to you, and we just started becoming friends again. And like, I don't want to break that and ruin that. But then on the other hand, he's like, if I don't ask them and we don't do this, we're all gonna perish and die, right? So he goes to Durin and he basically like straight up is like, Durin, I got sent to find the mithril. You know what I mean? I lied to you. Like I didn't know, but it's really important because the life force from the tree is dwindling and we need the mithril to preserve our life force. If not, we're gonna perish. And you see Durin be like, what do you mean perish? And he's like, well, our life force will dwindle away and we'll cease to exist. And it like really hits him and he sits down and he's like, oh shit, like wow, like it's actually that serious. Like it's like, you know what I mean? And again, because they're really good friends, to him he's like, as much as like he doesn't maybe trust the elves, because we see that there is that bad blood between them and there is that tension between them. As much as he doesn't fully trust the elves, Elrond is his really good friend and he's just like, I can't just sit by and just let you perish. So they're just sitting together and Durin is like, so they're sitting together and there's a funny moment with Durin because obviously like you could tell like Durin is just like a comedic character in a sense. Like he's serious and he's noble, but there's a lot of comedy to him and a lot of comedy to the dwarves, right? They're you know what I mean? So we see them sitting and Elrond is like the future, and so we see them sitting and Elrond is like, the future of the elves is in your hands. And we see Durin be like, whose hands? And he's like, and Elrond was like, yours. And he's like, whose? And he was like, yours. And he's like, He's like, okay. So it was just a nice little funny moment, just being like, you know what I mean? I'm going to do it, but don't get too excited because we still have to go and convince my dad that y'all need it to survive, right? We're going to have to go have that conversation still. So that's probably going to lead into next episode. And while that's going to be being dealt with, we're probably going to see the Southlands and all the other parts kind of come together maybe for a battle. So I'm excited for next episode. I think that might be it. I think I might have went over everything that popped off in the episode, all the storylines kind of going on right now, but us finally getting a clear picture of where it's going to end up, where the season is going to end up, whether that's with the battle and the forge being made. We're finally starting to see where all these moving parts in this show are starting to fit and starting to come together. So I'm really, really excited for the next episodes to come. Honestly, I'm enjoying the show. I'm just taking it for what it is. I'm trying not to like look too much into it, but I'm enjoying the show so far. So let me know in the comments what you thought about Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, episode 5. Let me know what you're thinking about the series so far, where you think it's going to end up. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up. If you think you'd be interested in content like this, Rings of Power reviews, Andor reviews, House of the Dragon reviews, She-Hulk reviews, entertainment news updates, trailer reactions, all that good stuff, subscribe to the Brandon Correia Network. Make sure you hit the bell. I drop videos almost daily. So hit the bell if you want to stay up to date on that. I appreciate you for watching. Catch you next time.